Well, it's been over 10 months since a fire destroyed the National Assembly. The DA is heading to court, it's consulting rather, with the potential of heading to court to challenge Parliament's inability to find suitable venues since then. The party says nothing has been done to hold those responsible to account. And Parliament spokesperson Moloto Mothapo joins me now to take that conversation forward. Moloto, good afternoon. Thank you for your time. So in your own words, what would you say has been done to ensure that Parliament continues to function and function efficiently since the main building, being the National Assembly, was gutted by a fire in January? Before we reflect on the various other aspects, what have you been preoccupied with in the last 10 and a half months?
Yeah, I think it's important to put the matters into correct perspective, that Parliament has been functioning and fully functioning and fulfilling its constitutional obligations, both during COVID-19 and post the pandemic, and as well as the fire that broke out in January this year. And this is thanks to the creative interventions through technology and other arrangements, which enables the work of lawmaking and public involvement as well as oversight to take place. I'll give you the example of the National Council of Provinces, that its chambers continue to be fully functional. And this house has been conducting hybrid meetings and can hold 100% physical sittings if that house so decides. Regarding the National Assembly, it has been sitting both physically and virtually due to the space constraints in the Good Hope Chamber due to the fire incident, as I've said. A number of committees have been having their meetings physically in Cape Town, while some sittings of the House, such as the State of the Nation address, as we've seen earlier this year, and the medium-term budget policy statements recently, have also been physical. So it's not accurate that the Speaker does not want the House to sit physically. The Speaker alone does not unilaterally take decisions on matters like this, which affects members of Parliament. She has been in consultation with members, with parties, through the Chiefs Forum regarding the appropriate venue for physical plenary sittings, which we should be beginning to use next year.
Yeah, but Moloto, that's a lot of time to be consulting. This is a fire that occurred in January. We're now at the tail end of November. It surely can still be a process of consultation. By now, we should be at a point where a decision has been made. Are we finding another suitable venue for the plenary sittings so that we move from this hybrid model, which has been criticized by many, including members of Parliament themselves, especially in the opposition? Consultation this long?
No. I'm not implying that consultation has been taking place for the whole year. There's a lot of work that has happened since the fire broke. Since the fire broke, we had to find alternative ways of conducting physical meetings. And of course, with the limitation of the space that we have, we had to conduct it in the hybrid format. I mean, we have announced earlier this year that the Good Hope Chamber will be an interim place, temporary place for the sittings of the National Assembly. So there has been also the limitation with regard to, because we had to make a proper assessment of the damage that has been created by fire. And you know that that was not necessarily something that was within the control of Parliament, because the DPW had to, through KUHA, had to conduct that kind of assessment. And it has taken about 6 months to conclude that report. So without that report, it would have been very difficult to make proper arrangements on the way forward. And without knowing the extent of the damage, it would have been very difficult to determine the way forward. So since the conclusion of that assessment, we are saying that we have now come up with various options on where we can have the physical sittings of the National Assembly for perhaps the next 3 years, while construction is taking place. And of course, you will know that the financial aspect of it also matter. The medium-term budget policy statement by the Minister of Finance announced that there will be an additional 150 or so million in order to enable Parliament to conduct a complete physical sitting. So that amount will come through, and it will be helpful in order for us to finance the temporary venue that will be used next year.
Which ones are these various options that you have come up with for physical sittings?
Well, those options, I cannot announce them until the political parties themselves have made a decision. But there is the issue, for instance, of temporary structure is out of the question because according to the projection, it will cost Parliament over 300 million, which is something that really is untenable, it's unjustifiable, given the fact that we need a lot of money to rebuild Parliament. So that is out of the question. So it means that we need to get out of the precincts of Parliament as we know them and go to a temporary thing. So one of the options that we have on the table, for instance, will be the City Hall, which is a stone's throw from Parliament, and we've already used it for the State of the Nation Address, the medium-term budget policy statement, and we are going to use it as well for the State of the Nation Address next year. So once there is a decision by political parties themselves and they recommend to the Speaker, there will be a decision.
Right. But Moloto, here's the thing, though. You surely cannot, from Parliament's side and the Speaker's side, seek to suggest that Parliament has been functioning fully, that qualifier that says fully. Yes, functioning fully, but in terms of effectiveness and fulfilling the various roles, let me get to it. The main concern is that the kind of setup that you have now doesn't allow for public participation in Parliament, in that it's virtual. So people will only be watching on the virtual platforms or on TV. If someone wanted to go and sit in Parliament and listen in on the debates, currently that's not possible. And that's no small matter, given what has been said about the importance of public participation in the processes of Parliament.
No, I will disagree, Thulasizwe, because of course there is a little space for members of the public to be able to come and sit in the chamber. But you will recall that even before the fire, the space in the public gallery has always been limited. So you can't have all the millions of South Africans coming in to participate or to be part of the proceedings. But we have made provision for members of the public to be able to be part of the proceedings of the House. The State of the Nation address that we had earlier this year, for instance, as well as the medium-term budget policy statement, we have got a mechanism in which we are able to allow the members of the public into the virtual platform so that they are part of the processes of Parliament. So in fact, if you compare the fire and pre-COVID-19, you will appreciate that Parliament, in fact, has been making provision far better than pre-COVID-19 and pre-fire for the involvement of members of the public in its processes and affairs. We are, while previously, for instance, we will not be able to broadcast the sittings of the House fully. For instance, if there is about the 30 committees that are taking place simultaneously, previously we will be able to only broadcast on YouTube 3 meetings at a time. But now we are able to broadcast all of them. So that allows members to be able to get involved, whether they are on virtual platform or they are commenting and following the proceedings online.
I'm out of time. I'm out of time. Let me get 2 quick questions to you very quickly. The format that we have now, part of the criticism of it, particularly as it relates to the National Assembly, but also the various committees, is that it's hybrid. Some members physically in the House, others on the virtual platform, is that it affects the tone of the debates that are taking place in Parliament. For instance, it's quite easy for a ruling to be made to say, remove Honorable, I don't know, Simelane from the platform. And that way, that has had an impact in terms of the tone of the debate, especially from the opposition benches. Surely you must appreciate that it's a different tone when members are physically in the House and will be able to challenge the Speaker if they feel that, you know, she's not applying the law, the rules of the House properly. But when they're on a virtual platform, they can simply be switched off.
No. But really, the tone and your personal preferences cannot really make a determination whether Parliament is able to fulfill its constitutional obligations or not. The rules that are applied on a virtual platform are the same rules that will apply physically. So if Honorable Simelane is violating or in breach of the rules, and for instance, being disruptive or being disorderly, physically the rules permit that that person will be removed from the House physically. But if the Honorable Member Simelane is on virtual platform, you will still be removed, but of course it will not be physical. It is just an issue of a click of a mouse and then you are removed. But that is a consistency of the application of the rule. So it's not different whether you are physical or virtual. So yeah. I don't think the tone really should be something that a yardstick to gauge whether Parliament is fulfilling its constitutional functions.
Lastly, Moloto, and what work have you as Parliament done on your part to get to the bottom of where your own systems lapsed leading to in the events leading up to the fire? Because that's one of the questions that the DA is asking, and I was thinking about it. It is a valid question. There's room for the SAPS to be doing their work, Public Works to be doing its work, assessing the damage, etc., but there's still a lot for you in Parliament yourselves to reflect on and get to the bottom of how did we end up with this situation where Parliament was gutted by a fire? Have you done any of that work and held anyone responsible for that?
Yeah, no. You are correct. The criminal justice system has been investigating. As I have said, there has been also an assessment of the damage. So as I'm talking to you now, the venue continues to be closed to the public and to anyone because of the safety and security concerns. But what you are saying is, has Parliament also been conducting its investigation into whatever lapse or possible mistakes that could have happened that might have caused the fire? The answer is a definite yes. And once we have concluded that investigation, you will know. You will remember that about 3 weeks or so, the new Secretary to Parliament made an announcement that as part of the investigation, one of the senior executives of Parliament has been put on a special leave. So that is part of the ongoing investigation. Right. And I'm sure that in no time we'll be able to give you and the public the outcome of that investigation.
Great stuff. Moloto, thank you. It's good to see you. Moloto Mothapo speaks on behalf of Parliament there, just giving us an update on the situation and processes around the various platforms of continuing the work of Parliament in the wake of that fire that happened in January this year.